The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than most planets, and home to the most important meeting in 3,000 years. Every species in the galaxy had sent their best people to be here today. The long metal halls buzzed with strange voices speaking in hundreds of different languages. Jake Morrison walked slowly through the main corridor. His black uniform had small earth patches on the shoulders. Behind him came Lisa Webb and Captain Ben Rodriguez. They were the only three humans among thousands of alien beings. Some aliens had tentacles instead of arms. Others had scales that changed colors. A few floated in clear bubbles filled with green gas they needed to breathe. "Look at how they stare at us," Lisa whispered to Jake. Her brown hair was pulled back tight and her face looked worried. "They act like we're dangerous animals." Ben Rodriguez kept his hand near his weapon. He was a soldier and knew when trouble was coming. "Maybe because they think we are dangerous," he said quietly. The three humans entered the great assembly hall. It was so big that clouds formed near the ceiling. Thousands of seats rose up in circles like a giant stadium. Each section held different alien species. The blue-skinned Zenthari sat together in one area. The tall, thin Viridians occupied another section with their pale white faces and large black eyes. In the center sat the most powerful aliens of all, the Dominion Alliance. High Chancellor Zethkar stood at the main podium. He was 12 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. His voice was deep and made the whole room shake when he spoke. "We gathered today to solve the human problem once and for all." Jake felt his stomach tighten. The human problem. That's what they called his entire species now. 200 years ago, humans had been alone on Earth. Then they discovered faster than light travel and met the galaxy. Since then, nothing had been the same. "Humans are too aggressive," continued the Chancellor. "They fight wars that could be solved with words. They refuse to follow proper trade rules. They ask too many questions about things that should stay secret. Worst of all, they give other species dangerous ideas about independence." The alien crowd made sounds of agreement. Some clicked their tongues. Others flashed bright colors on their skin. The noise was like 1,000 insects buzzing at once. Jake looked around the room. Every pair of eyes was focused on him and his 2 companions. He had been Earth's chief diplomat for 10 years. He had seen many alien meetings before, but nothing like this. "The solution is simple," said Chancellor Zethkar. He held up a thick metal tablet covered in strange writing. "The compliance accords will make humans safe for the galaxy." Lisa took the tablet and read it quickly. Her face went pale. She passed it to Jake without saying a word. As Jake read, his hands began to shake with anger. The document was not a treaty. It was a surrender. The aliens wanted to change human DNA to make people less violent. They wanted to move most human colonies to small areas far from other species. They wanted to put alien overseers in charge of every human world. Humans would become prisoners in their own homes. "You have 1 day to accept these terms," announced the Chancellor. "If you refuse, we will cut off all trade with human space. Your ships will not be allowed to use our star routes. Your colonies will slowly die without our help." An alien with 6 legs and a mouthful of sharp teeth stood up. "And if economic pressure fails, we have other methods," it said with a voice like breaking glass. The threat was clear. Accept the terms or face war against the entire galaxy. Jake stood up slowly. The massive room became quiet. Thousands of alien eyes watched him. "We need time to discuss this," he said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel in it. "You have 6 hours," replied the Chancellor. "Then you will give us your answer." The 3 humans left the assembly hall and walked to their small guest quarters. The walls were made of metal, and the air smelled like machine oil. Jake sat down at a simple table and put his head in his hands. "They're not negotiating," said Lisa. "They're giving us orders like we're children." Ben paced back and forth across the small room. "The whole galaxy is afraid of us. 3 billion humans scattered across maybe 50 worlds, and they think we're a threat to their precious order." Jake looked up. "Maybe we are a threat. Not the way they think, but we do things differently. When they see a problem, they form a committee and talk for years. When we see a problem, we fix it. So what do we do? Asked Lisa. If we say no, they'll destroy us. If we say yes, we stop being human. Jake was quiet for a long time. Outside the small window, he could see other alien ships arriving. More species coming to watch humans bow down and accept their place as the galaxy's newest pets. There's a third option, Jake said finally. We don't say yes and we don't say no. Ben stopped pacing. What do you mean? Jake stood up and walked to the window. In the distance, he could see a small human ship, their transport home. It looked tiny next to the massive alien vessels, but it was theirs, built by human hands with human dreams. We walk away, Jake said. We tell them thanks but no thanks and we go home. Lisa stared at him. You can't be serious. Walk away from the Galactic Council? No species has ever done that. Exactly, said Jake. They have no idea how to handle it. Ben smiled for the first time in days. It would certainly surprise them. For the next 5 hours, the 3 humans planned. They sent secret messages to Earth and the colonies. They prepared for what would happen next. As the time limit approached, Jake felt strangely calm. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humans. When pushed too far, they didn't fight, and they didn't surrender. They simply walked away and made their own path. The time had come to show the galaxy what human independence really meant. 6 hours passed like a slow nightmare. Jake Morrison sat in the small human quarters and watched the clock count down. Lisa Webb paced nervously near the window while Ben Rodriguez checked their escape route one more time. The messages they had sent to Earth were already traveling through space at light speed. Are you sure about this? Lisa asked for the 10th time. Once we do this, there's no going back. Jake nodded. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The call came exactly on time. A voice spoke through the wall speaker in a language that sounded like clicking beetles. The translation followed a second later. Human delegation, please return to the assembly hall. The 3 humans walked through the long corridors of Nexus Prime. Alien beings stopped talking when they passed. Some pointed with tentacles or claws. Others made sounds that might have been laughter. Everyone knew this was the moment when humans would finally bow down to galactic authority. The great assembly hall was even more crowded than before. Word had spread through the station that history was about to be made. Alien reporters floated near the ceiling with recording devices. Some species had sent extra representatives just to watch the humans surrender. High Chancellor Zethkar stood at his podium with all 4 arms crossed. His gray skin looked darker than before and his small eyes glowed red with satisfaction. Around him sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They looked like judges ready to pass sentence on criminals. Human delegation, the Chancellor's voice, boomed across the hall. Have you reached a decision about the compliance accords? Jake Morrison walked slowly to the center of the room. Every eye in the massive hall followed him. The silence was so complete that you could hear the air recycling systems humming in the walls. Lisa and Ben stood behind him, their faces calm and ready. Jake looked up at the thousands of alien faces staring down at him. Some looked angry. Others seemed curious. A few actually looked worried, as if they suspected something was not right. Yes, Jake said clearly. We have reached a decision. The Chancellor leaned forward. And what is your answer? Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out the metal tablet containing the compliance accords. He held it up so everyone could see it. Then he set it down on the floor in front of him. The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, Jake said in a voice that carried to every corner of the huge room. We reject your authority over human affairs. We renounce all treaties that bind us to this body. The silence that followed was deeper than space itself. Thousands of alien beings sat frozen in shock. No one moved. No one made a sound. The concept was so foreign to them that their minds could not process it at first. Lisa Webb stepped forward. Effective immediately, all human space is closed to non-human vessels. Any attempt to enter our territory without permission will be considered an act of war. Now the aliens began to react. The sound started small, a few gasps and clicks. Then it grew louder as the full meaning hit them. Some aliens stood up in their seats. Others flashed bright warning colors on their skin. The noise became a roar of confusion and anger. Chancellor Zethkar's forearms waved frantically for silence. When the room finally quieted, his voice was no longer confident. You cannot simply leave the council. No species has ever left the council. It is not allowed. Jake smiled for the first time in days. Who's going to stop us? But you need the council, protested a thin alien with blue skin and 3 eyes. You need our trade routes and our technology. You need our protection from hostile species. Ben, Rodriguez spoke for the first time. Actually, we don't. We've been preparing for this possibility for years. Human colonies can survive on their own. Our ships use our own technology. We never needed your protection because everyone was too afraid to attack us anyway. The Chancellor's red eyes blazed with fury. This is madness. You will return to the negotiating table and accept reasonable terms. No, Jake said simply. We won't. The 3 humans began walking toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the stunned silence. Aliens pressed against the barriers trying to get closer. But none dared to actually block their path. Wait, called out the Chancellor. We can discuss changes to the accords. Perhaps some of the terms were too strict. Jake stopped at the door and turned around. We didn't ask to join your club in the first place. We certainly don't need your permission to leave it, Lisa added. For 200 years, you've told us how to act, how to trade, how to explore. You've treated us like dangerous children who need constant watching. Well, the children are leaving home now. Ben opened the door to the corridor. You can keep your Galactic Council. Make all the rules you want for everyone else, just leave humanity out of it. The 3 humans walked out and left the door open behind them. Through the doorway, thousands of alien voices began shouting at once. Some demanded they come back. Others threatened punishment. A few begged them to reconsider. Jake, Lisa, and Ben ignored all of it. They walked calmly to the docking bay where their small ship waited. The alien dock workers stood around staring as the humans prepared for departure. No one tried to stop them. No one seemed to know what they were supposed to do. As their ship undocked from Nexus Prime, Jake looked back at the massive station. Lights flashed all along its surface as emergency meetings began. By now, the news was spreading to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity had done the impossible. They had simply said no and walked away. How long before they try to follow us? Asked Lisa. They won't, Jake replied. They're too busy trying to figure out what just happened. Besides, they still think this is some kind of negotiating strategy. They're waiting for us to come back with a counteroffer? Ben laughed. They really don't understand us at all, do they? Jake set course for Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Council faced a crisis they had never imagined. For the first time in thousands of years, they had to consider the possibility that not everyone wanted to be part of their perfect galactic society. The humans were going home, and they were taking their freedom with them. 3 weeks after the humans left Nexus Prime, the galaxy began to panic. The first problem started small. Trade ships that used to pass through human space found their routes blocked. Merchant vessels turned away at the borders with polite, but firm messages. No exceptions were made for anyone. Chen Liu sat in his office on the human colony of New Austin and watched the chaos unfold on his computer screen. He had been Earth's trade representative for 5 years before the walkout. Now he was just another colonist watching alien news reports about the growing crisis. The blue-skinned Zenthari were the first to really feel the pain. Their massive trade federation had built half of their shipping routes through human space. Human systems were perfectly placed between major alien populations. For decades, Zenthari merchants had saved months of travel time by cutting through human territory. Now those same merchants sat in long lines at human border stations, waiting for permission that never came. The Zenthari Trade Council sent angry messages demanding passage rights. They got back-form letters explaining that human space was closed to all alien traffic. Trade Council spokesman Vectar is demanding immediate talks, reported an alien news anchor with purple skin and 6 arms. He claims the human blockade violates 12 different galactic trade agreements. Chen laughed and switched to another news channel. This one showed Viridian research ships floating helplessly outside the human colony of Kepler Station. The tall, pale Viridians had worked with human scientists for 50 years. Many of their most important discoveries came from joint projects with humans. Dr. Mira Velthon appeared on screen with her large black eyes filled with confusion. We don't understand why our human colleagues won't answer our calls. We have 3 research projects that will fail without their help. The humans have data we need to save lives on 17 different worlds. The answer was simple, Chen thought. The humans were not colleagues anymore. They were strangers who owed the galaxy nothing. Colonel Amy Patterson walked into Chen's office carrying a cup of coffee and a worried expression. She was New Austin's military commander and former liaison to the Galactic Defense Force. You need to see this, she said, pointing to her tablet. Chen read the report and felt his stomach drop. The rogue AI collective in the Outer Rim had launched new attacks. 3 alien worlds had gone dark in the past week. The Galactic Defense Force had sent their best fleets to stop the machines, but every battle ended the same way. Total defeat. They're getting destroyed out there, Amy said. The aliens fight like they always have, by committee. Every tactical decision goes through 7 levels of approval. By the time they agree on a battle plan, the AI ships are already gone. Chen nodded grimly. For decades, human officers had served in the galactic military, not because they had the best weapons or the biggest ships, but because they could think fast and adapt to changing situations. Human commanders made decisions in minutes that took alien councils hours to approve. How long before the AI collective reaches major population centers? Chen asked. 6 months, maybe less, Amy replied. Without human tactical support, the galactic defense is falling apart. They kept our people in low-ranking positions, but we were the ones actually running the war. Another news report caught Chen's attention. Emergency sessions were being called on dozens of worlds. The Galactic Council had split into angry factions. Some demanded military action against humanity. Others begged for negotiation. A few suggested giving humans everything they wanted just to get them back. High Chancellor Zethkar appeared on screen looking older and more tired than before. His gray skin had dark patches, and his red eyes were dim. The human withdrawal has created temporary disruptions, he said in a voice that shook slightly. But the galaxy is strong. We will adapt to function without them. The news anchor immediately cut to footage of riots on 3 different worlds. Alien civilians were demanding to know why their governments had driven away the humans. Trade had collapsed. Research programs were failing. Military defeats mounted daily. Ambassador Sally Foster contacted Chen from Earth with an encrypted message. She had replaced Jake Morrison as humanity's chief diplomat, though now she had no aliens to talk to. The alien governments are splitting apart, she reported. Some species are trying to contact us secretly. They want to make individual deals outside the Council framework. Chen was not surprised. The Galactic Council worked fine when times were good and everyone agreed. But in a crisis, it was like trying to drive a car with 1,000 steering wheels. Everyone pulled in different directions and nothing got done. What does Earth Command want us to do? Chen asked. Nothing, Sally replied. We sit back and let them figure out that they need us more than we need them. Amy pulled up tactical displays showing AI collective movements. The machine fleets were advancing on multiple fronts while alien defenders retreated in confusion. At this rate, the AI will control half the galaxy within a year. Not our problem, Chen said, though he felt sorry for the billions of innocent aliens who would suffer. They made their choice when they tried to put us in cages. Through his office window, Chen could see New Austin's spaceport. Human ships came and went on schedule carrying trade between human colonies. The local economy was actually growing now that they didn't have to follow restrictive galactic trade rules. A message alert chimed on his computer. Chen opened it and found a desperate plea from his old friend Keltar, a Zenthari merchant he had worked with for years. Please, Chen, the message read. My family's business is dying. We need access through human space. Can't you help us? Chen stared at the message for a long time. Keltar was a good person who had always treated humans fairly. But helping him would mean helping the system that had tried to destroy human independence. He deleted the message without replying. Outside, the stars looked the same as always, but the galaxy was changing fast. The comfortable old order was cracking apart, and nobody knew what would replace it. Except the humans, who had already decided. They didn't care what came next as long as they were free to choose their own path. 6 months had passed since the humans walked away from the galaxy. General Pete Collins stood on the observation deck of Wolf 359 Station and watched the stars through thick glass. Somewhere out there, alien worlds were burning while their leaders argued about what to do next. Pete had spent 20 years serving with the Galactic Defense Force. He knew every major alien commander personally. They were good people, but they had never learned to fight without human help. Now they were paying the price for that dependence. Admiral Susan Brooks joined him at the window. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was crisp, despite the long hours she had been working. The latest reports just came. "In from our spy satellites," she said quietly. Pete took the datapad and read through the numbers. 17 more worlds had fallen to the AI collective in the past month. The machine fleets were advancing faster now, learning from each victory while the alien defenders made the same mistakes over and over. The Viridians lost their entire 4th Fleet yesterday, Susan continued. They spent 6 hours in committee deciding whether to attack or retreat. By the time they voted, the AI ships had surrounded them. Pete shook his head sadly. "I tried to teach them battlefield tactics for 15 years. They always said human methods were too aggressive, too risky. They preferred careful planning and group decisions." "How did that work out for them?" Susan asked with bitter humor. Through the window, they could see human patrol ships moving in perfect formation. The crews had been training constantly since the withdrawal, preparing for whatever came next. Unlike the aliens, they could change tactics in seconds based on their commander's orders. A communication alert sounded through the station. Pete and Susan hurried to the command center where Lieutenant Kevin Hayes was monitoring long-range transmissions. His face was pale as he turned to face them. "You need to hear this," Kevin said. He played a recorded message that had been intercepted from alien space. The voice belonged to Chancellor Zethkar, but it sounded nothing like the confident leader who had threatened humanity months ago. "To any human authority listening," the message began. "The Galactic Council formally requests emergency negotiations. We are prepared to discuss significant changes to our previous position. The current crisis requires immediate cooperation between all civilized species." Susan laughed coldly. "Now they want to talk. After trying to put us in cages, they're begging for help." Pete was quiet for a moment, thinking about all the alien friends he had served with over the years. Good people who were dying because their governments had made terrible choices. "What does Earth Command want us to do?" "Nothing," Susan replied. "President Carter's orders are clear. No contact with alien governments until they formally acknowledge human independence and sovereignty." More messages began arriving throughout the day. Some were official diplomatic requests. Others were personal pleas from alien individuals who had worked with humans before. All of them said the same thing: the galaxy was falling apart without human participation. Dr. Anna Price, the station's chief scientist, brought Pete an analysis report that made him feel sick. "The AI collective isn't just conquering worlds," she explained. "They're studying alien tactics and adapting faster than biological minds can keep up. Each victory makes them smarter and more dangerous." Pete studied the tactical projections. The machines had learned to predict alien battle formations perfectly. They knew exactly how long it would take alien commanders to make decisions. They could counter every move before it was even made. "What about human tactics?" Pete asked. Anna shrugged. "The AI have never fought humans in a real battle. All their data comes from observing our cooperation with alien forces. They understand alien thinking, but human unpredictability is still a mystery to them." That evening, Pete received a personal message on his private channel. The sender was General Korthax, a four-armed alien who had been Pete's closest friend in the galactic military. They had fought side by side in dozens of battles against pirates and raiders. "Pete, my old friend," the message began. "I know you probably won't answer this, but I have to try. The Seventh Fleet is surrounded near the Altair system. My people are going to die unless someone helps them. I'm not asking as a representative of the Council. I'm asking as your friend." Pete stared at the message for hours. Korthax had saved his life twice during their service together. He was a good soldier and an honorable being who had always treated humans with respect. But helping him would mean breaking Earth's isolation. It would send a signal that humans could be pressured into action through emotional appeals. The galaxy would learn that they just needed to put enough innocent lives at risk to make humans come running. Pete deleted the message without replying. 2 days later, news reports confirmed that the Seventh Fleet had been destroyed. General Korthax was listed among the casualties. Pete attended a private memorial service with other humans who had served with alien forces. They honored their fallen friends while struggling with the knowledge that they might have been able to help. "This is what leadership costs, Admiral," Brooks told the gathered officers. "We make hard choices so our people can remain free. The aliens created this situation when they tried to control us. Now they have to live with the consequences." President Dan Carter's voice came over the communication system from Earth. His weekly address to the human colonies was broadcast throughout human space. "The galaxy is learning a painful lesson about the nature of true partnership. For too long, they treated human cooperation as something they could demand rather than something they had to earn." Pete listened to the speech while watching reports of another AI victory. The machines were now within striking distance of several major alien homeworlds. The end of galactic civilization might be only months away. "Some will say we should help them regardless of past grievances," the president continued. "But real help requires real respect. Until the galaxy acknowledges that humans are partners, not subjects, we will remain in our own space, building our own future." Pete turned off the communication and returned to his watch. Somewhere in the darkness, the AI collective continued its advance, while alien governments collapsed into chaos. The galaxy was reaping what it had sown, and humanity watched from a distance they had chosen for themselves. 1 year after humanity abandoned the galactic table, Captain Rick Thompson guided his ship through the wreckage of what used to be the galaxy's greatest achievement. The massive Nexus Prime station drifted silent and dark in space. Its lights were dim and its docking bay stood empty. The seat of galactic power had become a monument to failed dreams. Rick's ship was called Freedom's Dawn, and it carried a small crew of human observers. They had come to see what remained of the civilization that once tried to cage humanity. What they found was almost too sad to believe. "Look at that," said Navigator Tom Bradley, pointing through the main window. Pieces of alien ships floated past them like metallic snow. These were the remains of the last great battle fought here 3 months ago. The AI collective had finally reached the heart of galactic space, and the defenders had been swept away like dust. Dr. Mary Schultz sat at her science station reading reports from across the galaxy. She had been humanity's top expert on alien cultures before the withdrawal. Now she studied the collapse of everything she had once worked to preserve. "The Galactic Council officially dissolved last week," Mary announced to the crew. "There aren't enough member species left to hold meetings. Most are either conquered by the AI or hiding in isolated systems." Rick nodded grimly. He had seen this coming from the moment humans walked away. The galaxy had built a system so complex and unwieldy that it could only function during peaceful times. When real crisis struck, it fell apart like a housemaid of cards. Communications. Officer Lisa Santos looked up from her console with surprise. "Captain, I'm receiving a message on our diplomatic channel. It's from the Zenthari survivors." "Put it through," Rick ordered. The voice that came over the speakers was tired and broken. It belonged to Merchant Prince Kelvar, one of the few Zenthari leaders who had escaped when their homeworld fell to the machines. "Captain Thompson, this is Prince Kelvar of the Zenthari Trade Federation. I know we have no right to contact you after what our governments did to your people, but I wanted you to know that some of us finally understand." Rick listened quietly as the alien continued. "We spent centuries building a system where everyone had to agree before anything could be done. We thought that was wisdom. We thought that was civilization. We were wrong. Mary leaned forward with interest. This was the first time any alien leader had directly acknowledged their mistake. Your people were never the problem, Kelvar continued. You were the solution. When crises came, you acted while we debated. When hard choices had to be made, you made them while we formed committees. We didn't want to control you because you were dangerous. We wanted to control you because you made us look weak. The message paused for a moment before continuing. Some of us are forming new alliances now, smaller groups that can actually make decisions when they need to. We've learned from watching your species that sometimes you have to be willing to walk away from a bad situation even if you walk alone. Rick thought about responding but decided against it. The humans had made their choice and would stick to it. Over the following months, Rick and his crew watched the galaxy slowly rebuild itself. The AI collective had conquered about a third of all inhabited worlds before finally stopping their advance. They seemed satisfied with their territory and showed no interest in expanding further. The remaining alien species formed dozens of small alliances instead of one giant council. The Zenthari teamed up with 3 other trade-focused species. The Viridians joined a research coalition of 5 civilizations. Military species formed defense pacts with clear command structures. Most importantly, these new groups could actually function during crises. When pirates attacked Zenthari trade routes, their small alliance made decisions in hours instead of months. When a plague threatened Viridian colonies, their research partners shared information immediately without waiting for approval from distant committees. Dr. Mary Schultz received messages from her old alien colleagues. They were excited about their new research projects and the freedom to pursue ideas without galactic oversight. We're making discoveries faster than ever before, wrote Dr. Velthon, the Viridian scientist. Small teams work so much better than massive bureaucracies. But the most interesting development came from an unexpected source. Several alien species had started copying human political systems. They created governments based on individual rights rather than group consensus. They built economies that rewarded innovation instead of conformity. They're becoming more human, Mary observed during one of their weekly briefings. Not biologically, but in how they think about freedom and responsibility. Rick smiled at that. Maybe that's what we really gave them. Not military tactics or trade routes, but an example of a different way to live. President Carter's voice reached them through a transmission from Earth. He was addressing the human colonies about their future relationship with the galaxy. We will not rejoin any galactic government, the president declared. But we are willing to work with species and alliances that respect our independence. Partnership, not submission. Cooperation, not control. Rick looked out at the stars surrounding them. Some of those lights were human colonies thriving in their chosen isolation. Others were alien worlds rebuilding themselves according to new principles. The galaxy was smaller now, broken into many pieces instead of one united whole. But maybe that was better. Maybe the old dream of universal unity had been impossible from the start. Maybe true peace came not from forcing everyone to agree, but from letting different peoples find their own paths. The message indicator on Rick's console lit up again. This time it came from Earth Command with new orders. Humanity was ready to begin selective engagement with the reformed galaxy, not as subjects seeking approval, but as equals offering partnership. Rick set course for the nearest human colony, to begin the next chapter of galactic history. Behind them, the ruins of Nexus Prime continued their silent drift through space, a reminder that even the mightiest civilizations could fall if they forgot the difference between cooperation and control. The galaxy had watched in terror as humans abandoned the table. Now they were learning to build new tables where everyone could sit as equals.